Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And this, this load here is my buddy Puccini, who keeps me company in the craft room. I have a very fun card for you today. I have decided to use the new stamp set and die set out of the catalog, the new catalog called Nested Friends. And I've made a real different kind of card, and I think you're going to like it. Let's just get started. Here is my card, and this little card is done on a single piece. I used the Deckled Edge die set. This is the Deckled Edge set, and what I used is the largest 3 sizes, and I cut the largest size, and that ends up being, somebody asked me the other day, which just reminds me here, about this ruler and why I used it and if there was anything special about it. And there definitely is, and I'll just explain that now, and then I'll put something on my blog too that talks about this as favorite crafty things. This ruler has a raised, the ruler itself is raised, maybe 1/8 of an inch, so that this piece is a little bit lower than the actual ruler. And what that means is when you go to measure a piece of paper, what it does is it grabs the end of the piece of paper, and then you've got an absolutely perfect notion of how wide or what the measurement is on your card, because it butts right up against the paper. So I use it for a couple of things, and the first thing is because it grabs the paper, I know I have an accurate measurement across this way. And I've been using some of the other rulers that I have, little ones, like here, to just measure something, and I found that sometimes I'm off. With this thing, I'm never off. Also, if you had, for instance, if you had loose letters and you were trying to line them up, you could use this as an edge on your piece, and you wouldn't even have to have a pencil. You could place your pieces right along here. You could tape this down with a little piece of washi tape and have it be on there and have your hands free, and you'd be absolutely sure of a straight edge. So I think, and it's not expensive. I don't think the ruler costs $3, but it's one of the handiest tools, and I've had it for a long time, and I've been using it a little bit more lately, just because it gives me such accurate measurements and straight lines and helps me line things up, and so there's all kinds of benefits for that. But that's what this is all about. And so on this card, this Deckled Edge, a normal card would be 4 1/4, and this is 3 3/4, so it's a little bit smaller than a regular card. 3 3/4 by a tiny bit over 5 inches. I used the Deckled Edge dies, and I used the largest 3 and came up with this card. Now it fits in a regular sized envelope, and I think it works just fine in a regular sized envelope. I don't think you have to do anything special. And I put this piece on the back here so that the card would in fact stand. And so there's none of that issue of needing a special stand or anything, because I just cut another piece of the Deckled Edge paper and folded it in half. Now this one is the same size as the bigger one. Okay, so the pieces that you need to make this card, out of the largest of the Deckled Edge dies, I cut my white base. Then I cut the green out of the next size Deckled Edge, and then I cut the card front here out of the 3rd largest. And then on that one, I put a score line at a 1/2 inch on one end or the other, doesn't matter, so that that'll lift up. Then you need a piece of white that is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 to fit underneath there so that it doesn't show underneath here. And this is what I did with mine. I put that bird in here and some speckles, and so you have a place inside. It's a little bit of a different fold. And then I cut a second piece, which is the same size as this piece, and that's this one. And I folded it in half and burnished it, and then I put a 1/2 inch score from that fold line here so that it would make that piece that opens up and makes the card able to stand. So that is the pieces that I need. So I cut 2 out of the 3rd deckled edge, this piece which is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and these are the largest of the deckled edge dies. I used a Nested Friends bundle, and I used this stamp, I used this thank you, I used the bird, I used the speckles, and I think that's all I used from the stamp set. On the dies, I used this large die, which cuts this piece out once it's stamped, the bird, the little blue egg, little eggs, and I made them blue, a bunch of these leaves, and this gives you tons of leaves. This gives you 3, 6, 9, 12. So it cuts out 12 leaf clusters or leaf pairs. And what I did with mine is, I'll show you on here, is I added some extra leaves on the back here just to give some different dimension. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to glue these 2 pieces together because there's nothing else that has to happen with those. So I'm going to add some seal to that and place this on my card front with a similar margin all the way around, and there you go, there's that piece. I set my stamping of the nest in my Stamparatus, and in the Stamparatus what I did was I die cut the nest out. I stamped the nest on a piece of card, then I die cut that nest out, and then without moving the paper, putting the paper back in for where I had stamped it to do that, then I have cut a whole bunch of these blanks, and I have quite a few of these to make, and you put this back into this spot, and this is set up to do your stamping, and I'll show you here. On this nest, what I did was I used my soft suede, and let me move this into the camera a little bit better. I inked up my nest and came across here, and I'll show you another cute little thing that a friend of mine sent me. Mary Beth Ravenscroft in Texas, who's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, very talented lady, sent me these things. And I'm sure many of you have seen these and used them, and you put it and use it with your Stamparatus, and you get that nice even pressure, so even when you're up against guards, you get a pretty good image. Then on this, what you do is you just pick it up out of this end, and I got it all stained as I was trying to get it set up exactly right. But there we go. There's my nest stamped and done, and we'll just use this one for the card. And now I've got another blank, so all I have to do is put another blank in. So if you have a bunch of these to make like I do, I'm using them for swap, so I've got a ton of them that I have to use or make. And so I just reset it, re-ink it, stamp it again, and I'm ready to go. It's kind of a demo trick for assembly line operations. Okay, so there is my nest, which doesn't look a thing like that one yet, so I'll show you what we did to kind of get it that way. I'm using my light old olive blend, and what I'm doing is just very quickly here Nothing fancy, just getting some color down on these leaves. Everything that you think that looks like a leaf, to just go ahead and color that leaf, and it starts to add some color to this, and I'll speed through this. Okay, I think I got everything that kind of looked like a leaf. Then I used my pumpkin pie marker, the thin end, and I colored in these berries just to add another little pop of color. And I like the way they came out, so I'm real happy with that. Now then, what did I do to get the dimension on the nest? I used my blender pen. And, you know, when you use a blender pen, the tips get stained, but they continue to work. So now I'm using my blender pen, and I'm avoiding this part in the middle. And I'm just going to go around. And what it does is it kind of moves the color around a little bit. But this picked up the warm brown that is in the soft suede, and I just love the way it came out. And if I avoid that central piece, what it does is it creates the illusion of depth, and it makes this look a little bit darker, which is what I wanted, because I wanted it to look like it was inside. So I just used my blender pen and went around the whole nest and picked up the color and just kind of moved it around, even onto the stems of these leaves, so it looked a little bit more realistic. There's my nest all taken care of, and it does give the illusion that this is deeper inside here. Then to do the little eggs, this die set has 3 little eggs connected together and the bird. And what I did was I used, you can use your take your pick tool, and I poked a hole right in the side here. It's kind of a big one, but that's perfect, because then I took my snips in there and I just started cutting. And the beauty of snips is they cut all the way to the tip. So I just cut a slot basically across the bottom of that nest, so I'd have a place to get my eggs so that it looked like they were further down inside the nest. And so there I've just cut a little piece, and it's a little rough, and you know what, that's okay, because it looks more realistic against the nest material. What I'm going to do is put that on dimensionals. Being careful not to put any dimensionals over this area that I cut to be able to put the eggs in. So I'm going to set this not perfectly straight, but on here so that it might hang off on one side or the other, and that's just fine. On the eggs, thought 3 of them looked like a nice number to put on here. So I am just going to put some dot runner on the back of my eggs, and I'm going to put them, here we go. And that's simple, and like I said, this little rough cut looks just fine because it looks like it's part of the nest. All right, next, the bird. So what I've done is I used Memento, and I stamped my bird. And I didn't want him too dark. Let's see how this one comes out. Pretty good. What I used to color the bird, and so I have my balmy blue ink. I can put that black away now. And my blender pen. Up a little bit of the blue and went around the edge of the bird and put in the blue over the top of the black. And this way, with the blender pen, I could be real specific about where I was putting my color. Then I used my Daffodil Delight blender pen, and just added a little bit of color along one side of my bird. And I used a little bit of this, I'm pretty sure that's the light crumb cake. Yes, the light crumb cake. And I gave a little bit of brown body. I wanted this to be fairly subtle. And then I used my pumpkin pie to give him an orange beak. There we go, just like that. And you can use a bit of black if you want to color in the eye. There we go. And there's my bird. Now I die cut them out, and I've already die cut a couple, so I've got them here. And I tried this one with a darker color, or the light soft suede, and I just felt like it was too dark. But the lighter bird filled in with this crumb cake, I thought was pretty nice. And then again, a little eye. There we go. And so then this little bird got put up on dimensionals. I added a little bit of snail on the bottom of his tail and put him right here, perched on the edge of the nest. So there he is. Now, I did not do my stamping yet. I should have done that already. In fact, that's probably the first thing I should have done. But we'll see if I can get away with it here. I've got my thank you that I'm going to put over here. And what I'm going to do is make sure that that is below that fold line and fits right in the top here. And there's my thank you, and I did that in the soft suede. All right, I got away with that one. And then you have the die that has all of these little leaves, and I'm going to show them to you here. They cut out with the die. There's no stamp for them, and they're so pretty. They cut in two sizes, little tiny ones and a little bit bigger ones. I think you can see that. Let me see if I can get that more under the light so you can see them a little bit better. There we go, kind of like that. And there's a lot of detail that gets embossed into the leaves, and they're really very pretty. And so what I did was I took 3 of them, a little one and 2 little bit larger ones, and since you get 12 with one pass, you can make several cards with just one pass on the die. And let's see, turn them over here and put a little bit of dot runner on them. They're so small They're really pretty though. And you see the stamp here, the leaves are very small. So what I did was I just took a couple of them and tucked them under the nest and under the other things, so it added some more dimension. And it's all in the old olive, and put them a couple of different places around the design here, just to add a little extra something something here. And I think it does add a little something to it. So there we are. That is our nest area, the bird, and the eggs. So now we're ready to sort of put this thing together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put this piece down here. Nope. I'm going to put the piece on the back. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is add some snail, and this piece I cut a little bit smaller on this one than I did on the original. And I'm going to add lots of seal because I want this to stick down here really, really well. Okay, so this is going to be the bottom of my card, and so I'm going to move this all the way down to the edge of the bottom of the card right here and put that in place. And then I'm going to add some seal right along the inside of that scored area, a couple of beads, and fold that down. Now that's glued down. Now this is going to make the piece that opens up a little bit like this, and then your card can stand. So I think that works out pretty well. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is place this on the card, and I'm going to add lots of seal. And I'm going to add this piece to the front of the card, right here centered on the front. And now my flap opens. And then the last piece is this little 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 piece that's going to go underneath here and be hidden by this top piece, but you'll be able to write a message and do some stamping. So on this one, what I did was I put those speckles in the old olive, and you know, I think I'm going to do this one in the soft suede. I'm just going to put some speckles just down here on the bottom of this card. This is a really nice speckle stamp, and that way I can go off like that. Now you could just stamp the bird and color him in right here, but I had die cut a couple of birds, and I thought it then matched perfectly the one on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some adhesive on the back of this bird and put him into place on my piece. Right down here, and because this piece barely fits underneath there, I don't want any part of that bird off of that. Okay, so this piece is going to get some snail on the back of it and go into place by tucking it all the way up to the top here and putting it down on the card, and this top piece covers it, and you have plenty of space down here to write a little message. And then I used some gems here, and these gems are in the new catalog, and they are called iridescent pastel gems, and one of the colors is this real pale blue, and I'm sure it's supposed to be like the balmy blue. And so I used these on my card, and I put 3 of them down. One kind of, I'm going to cover up that smudge by putting that one on that side. And then I tucked one right in here so that it would pick up the blues. And then I added another little one down, and since I did it on that side, I'll put one down on this side here. And there it is. I think it is the sweetest little card. And I'm very, very pleased. It's a little fiddly, but not too bad for the effect that you get. And so I'm really pretty tickled with the whole idea of this. And I love the fact that our card stands pretty easily here. And this one, I cut the bigger stand, and it works just fine, but it shows outside the edges. So using the littlest smaller one worked just as well, and they stand perfectly. And so there we go. That is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. All the way through the end of February, Stampin' Up! Has a wonderful deal for joining. If you get the mini cut and emboss machine plus $175 worth of product for $129, that's a screaming deal, because that means that mini cut and emboss machine only costs $30. And you can get the white if you choose that as one of the options, or you can just get the $175 worth of product for $99 if you already have one of those little machines. So it's really a very good deal, and that's going to run through Celebration, so through the end of February. My prize draw for the month is a $60 shopping spree on me. All you have to do to put yourself in the drawing is place an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can get to it through my blog, www.inkandingenuity.com. And I think my blog is completely caught up. This video will go up on Tuesday, the 30th, I think. No, 31st, last day of January. That's it for me, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.